So if you've been unlucky enough to have been targeted by gender-critical fascists within the past 5 years, you've likely heard tales of what took place in Hyde Park in 2017 that apparently proves that trans people are violent brutes. So how do these tales stack up? What does the evidence show? And what can this teach us about the modus operandi of those subscribing to the gender-critical ideology? We'll get to answering those questions in a second, though first I just need to give a quick content warning for the following: transmisia, physical violence, child abuse, suicide baiting, stalking, and doxing. If you like our work, please consider supporting the channel via Patreon. You can also support us by liking, commenting, and sharing this video on social media. Hey there, my name is Ethel Thurston, she, her, they, them, and it's time to discuss events surrounding Hyde Park, London on the 13th of September 2017. So as already mentioned, there is a narrative, a mythology constructed around said events by gender-critical fascists, including the infamous Jill Bearup, who framed said event as 4 transgender activists descended upon a sweet, innocent 6-year-old woman, Maria McLachlan, brutally mugging her. Wow, that sounds pretty bad. Just a shame it's a fucking lie. Not only did Bearup leave out McLachlan's open support for fellow fascist hate group, the English Defence League, with McLachlan asserting its image problem is simply the result of a few bad apples, but Bearup also lied about the events in Hyde Park itself, namely the facts that McLachlan was pushed over as a result of her choking someone in a headlock, dragging them about 10 feet away from their group before violently shaking them with the help of a friend. Hardly the actions of a sweet and innocent woman. So let's roll things back to the very beginning. Stonewall pulls out of a debate against a group of gender-critical fascists when they realise just how bad faith the people they are going up against are, only for 2 venues, the main venue and the backup venue, to cancel on said fascists. As a result, both the anti-trans fascists, including McLachlan, and the human rights group who had turned up to protest them, moved to Hyde Park. Once there, both groups kind of separated into their own little corners, chanting back and forth for one another, which is when we have video. Note, I'll be using 2 videos to show what happened due to both of them missing key things at various points. I've also gone ahead and mirrored a copy of both videos so you can check them out unedited. As people are chanting at one another, McLachlan peels off from her group and begins approaching the human rights protesters, recording them as she does. In response, a trans woman, Tara Wolfe, breaks off from the human rights group and attempts to slap the camera out of McLachlan's hand, failing to do so before Tara retreats behind her group. McLachlan then decides it would be a great idea to continue to approach the other group, pushing her camera mere inches from people's faces whilst being told to stop and back off. One individual even raises their cardboard sign to block McLachlan, who at that point is barging her way into the group. The group responds by trying to push her and her camera away, which breaks out into a scuffle, with the anti-trans group rushing forward to join in. The scuffle lasts mere seconds, yet in the chaos, nobody notices McLachlan grab one of the trans people in a headlock before she begins dragging them back towards the anti-trans side, whereupon her and one of her friends begin violently shaking this random trans person. All of this happens in full view of Julia Long, the person with the megaphone, who says absolutely nothing. The human rights group does eventually notice that one of them has been taken, at which point a number of them, including Tara Wolfe, rush forward to free said person, during which McLachlan is pushed to the ground. Both sides separate and things quieten down once more. Now, there's a few things of interest I'd like to point out here, things that aren't noticeable in the video but rather the audio. The first is members of the anti-trans group laughing as everything happens, talking nonchalantly about recording things as Venice Allen, the woman in the red coat who organised the event, yells, "Hit him."
Yes, keep filming.
The next thing I like to point out is the way in which, in spite of McLachlan having yet to pull herself off the ground, Venice Allen pivots on the spot, begins walking away, loudly declaring that she's calling the police. No apparent concern about McLachlan, nothing.
No.
and there you can see McLachlan lifting herself up off the ground, after Venice Allen has already walked off. This is why I don't take claims about the apparent concern gender-critical fascists have all too seriously. Reminder, Ms. Allen was the organizer of the event and thus should feel responsible for the people present, but she just doesn't care. Her calls to hit him were about taking opportunity of the situation to hurt a trans person, not helping McLachlan. Everybody's expendable under fascism, yet nobody following it thinks that refers to them specifically. It's one of those really twisted elements to the whole thing. And it's both of these things, the language and the way Venice Allen reacts, that reveal what this entire show had been about. The anti-trans elements were setting out to provoke a response so that they could then turn around and use it to reinforce their anti-trans propaganda. In a domestic setting, this is something known as reactive abuse, where the abuser provokes their victim into reacting violently, allowing them to flip the abuser-victim narrative. And whilst there's no interpersonal relationship involved here, it's still a tactic applied by oppressing forces. If you prod enough marginalized people for long enough, someone is going to snap, and you can use that to justify the initial oppression, thus creating an endless feedback loop. The whole thing was a setup, and there is literally no way to win in such a situation. The anti-trans fascists would simply continue to escalate things until they provoked the desired response. So you either allow yourself to be harmed, or you're punished for taking a stand. Now, Tara Wolff was charged with common assault. However, it's worth mentioning that the judge presiding over said case refused to grant McLachlan any compensation, stating that, quote, "Compensation would not be appropriate, particularly due to the unhelpful way in which the victim was present at the protest and the way she was filming. She was asked at different stages not to film, but continued to do so." End quote. So even by the ruling of an incredibly transmissive judicial system, McLachlan very clearly provokes things. You don't get to barge into a group of people protesting your fascism and expect nobody to react. And no, someone slapping your camera is not justification to assault a completely different person. Hell, it's not justification to assault anyone. If you were actually afraid when someone slapped your camera, you'd withdraw from the situation, or at least just stand your ground, not advance on the opposition. It's not like McLachlan's rights are at stake here as they are for trans people. She loses literally nothing in fucking off and going home. It's also worth noting that Ms. Wolff gave her motives for what happened during the trial, with her stating that, quote, "TERFs have a history of taking people's pictures and posting them in pages like genderidentitywatch.com, a database that makes us a target for the far right. It made me feel threatened because I have heard what TERFs have done in the past. They take people's pictures, they put them on the internet, and they dox, publish personal details about them. They've even been known to put people on paedophile watch websites." End quote. This is something that defines gender-critical fascism. For example, Venice Allen, the organizer of the event, is someone who is known for her stalking and harassment of trans people, especially trans youth, via her online persona, Dr. Radfem. Ms. Allen has no actual degree, as far as I'm aware. Ms. Allen, 43 at the time, would go on to target and harass a teenage MP, Lily Madigan, with Ms. Allen making public comments about driving Lily to suicide. Her harassment of people like Lily was so unrelenting that even the British Labour Party was forced to take action. Ms. Allen was expelled after she posted photos she took of Lily at a Labour party, tagging the girl to let her know that Ms. Allen had access to her and could assault her at any moment. Because that's another thing Ms. Allen is known for. Hell, mere hours after the incident in Hyde Park, Ms. Allen not only took part in physically assaulting a trans person of colour, but also used sexual violence, a fact that was never widely reported on. Why? Well, because violence against trans people, especially trans women of colour, is seen to be the normal and thus acceptable state of the world. Gender-critical fascists are allowed to assault and even sexually abuse trans people, and if trans people defend themselves, they're the ones presented to society as the dangerous element. And things have not gotten any better. Just last week, Twitter user Mrs. Massacre posted a photo of a transgender child who attends the same school as her daughter, doxing the child in the process whilst gleefully supporting violence against them. Thankfully, she was forced off Twitter and an investigation into her behaviour has been launched by the school, but Ms. Wolf was and still is right in that this is indicative of the gender-critical ideology. They have a history of doxing trans people to encourage violence against them, including children. That is what we, the trans community, are up against. Literal fascists who will do everything in their power to eradicate us. A fact that needs to be kept in mind when judging said actions. So I hope this video has helped you understand the Hyde Park incident and the complexities surrounding it, even if it's largely a repackaging of the relevant section from the Jill Barrett video we did. As mentioned in my Barrett video, I never got round to making a standalone piece when it happened because I quite literally moved to India that week. The news cycle just passed me by and I never found the inspiration to cover it on its own, and really, how I covered it in the Jill Barrett video was just too good to pass up on. That said, McLachlan has responded to said section, accusing me of lying, leading me to create a response to her, demonstrating that it is her who is, in fact, lying to her audience. That video is definitely well worth the watch. You get to see a little more of my sarcastic side, which people seem to enjoy. If you appreciate what we do here and want to help out, please consider becoming one of our wonderful patrons who make our work possible. On that note, we'd just like to thank the following people: Matthew Kovac, Gert Van Voorst, Hannah Banghart, Marble Wings, Sosh Daniels, Flynn, and Higgins the Seagull. And for myself, Adita, and Levi, take care now.